These days, it becomes more and more difficult to keep up with the knife news with each passing day. New companies seem to sprout up at a mind-blowing rate. As soon as you get used to hearing about one new company, another one pops up, and so goes this seemingly endless cycle. And in 2014, some fellow knife bros out in Costa Mesa, California, decided to throw their name into that hat, focusing on a clean and minimal aesthetic for their EDC tools and trinkets. And for me, at least, up until the past couple of years, they managed to fly well under my knife radar. But lately, they've been pumping out new and more intriguing knife designs, enough so to trigger my previously mentioned radar. And over the past couple of years, that blip on my radar has emerged and faded away several times, mainly due to the fact that Quiet Carry's pieces have been hard to get a hold of and or well over my cutlery budget. But a month or so ago, I was able to finally get my hands on a Quiet Carry, and in a fashion that only backs up my earlier point about there being too many new companies to keep track of, I picked up a Quiet Carry that I had literally never heard of. The Quiet Carry Chase. It turns out this little beauty was actually born into the world through an overwhelmingly successful Kickstarter campaign back in 2018, and they've been pumping these little EDC pieces out ever since. These days, they can be had in a handful of colorways: black scales, pink scales, orange scales, with stonewash blades in either 20CV or LC200N, and there is a murdered out black on black option as well. My Chase, however, as you can see, is a little bit different. It seems this particular Chase is one of the earliest variants, rocking N690 CO blade steel, a first for me and my collection, and these absolutely mesmerizing scales that have gave me some serious fountain pen, acrylic, and or resin vibes. And upon further research, it seems I was right on the money. According to Quiet Carry, these beautiful scales are made of a poured resin, which is also commonly used to make fountain pen bodies. And this colorway is called Sea Gray. Sure, I'll buy that, I guess. The looks really do it for me on this piece. Blade to handle ratio is just spot on, and I find myself getting lost in those resin scales. And all in all, they definitely live up to their company's pledge to clean and minimal design with this one. And like all Quiet Carry knives, there are these 4 little pinholes that honestly look like I should plug this knife in at night to charge it back up, but for the life of me, I cannot find the USB port. I reached out to the company for comment, but I have not heard back. I hope it goes without saying, but I'm kidding. I didn't do that. I am tempted to do that now, but I haven't done it yet. We've got very minimal hardware, just the pivot and 2 body screws on either side, and the stainless pocket clip is ultra deep carry, and it has been a breeze to get in and out of the pocket for me. Oh, and as far as dimensions go, we're looking at 2.95-inch blade, safely under that 3-inch mark, and an overall length of 6.91 inches, so a great size for daily carry. Now, as good looking as this knife is, it's no good if it doesn't cut stuff. And that drop point PVD coated N690 blade is good and slicey. Not exactly on par with a PM2, but slicey enough to pass my phone book paper and cardboard cutting tests. The cutting edge is reasonably thin thanks to that flat grind that meets the swedge about 90% of the way up the height of the blade. Also, from some angles, I swear there's the slightest of recurves on this blade, but I bought this one secondhand, so it very well could have been from the previous owner's sharpening habits. If you know better than me, please let me know in the comments. And the N690 steel hasn't exactly blown my mind as far as edge retention goes, but it's a breeze to maintain or sharpen back up, which is nice considering I've needed to touch mine up at least every couple of weeks or so after even the lightest EDC tasks. That being said, it is apparently an exceptionally stain and rust resistant stainless steel, which is kind of becoming another company pledge for Quiet Carry. They've been using LC200N in most, if not all, of their newer models, including the newest versions of this knife. The ergos on the Chase here are, well, they're okay. There's some slight chamfering around the scales, and it fits in the hands and locks in pretty well for a smaller knife, but the jimping on the liner lock and on top of the blade are absolutely brutal. You are definitely going to feel those little teeth digging into your fingers if you give it a good squeeze. They're like little razors. They will leave marks, and they will collect a good amount of your flesh even during the lightest use, throughout the day. The same goes for the jimping on the blade spine. You will definitely notice it in the hand. But if sacrificing your flesh for extra grippiness is fine, it is what it is. And finally, well, the action. Well, considering the Chase is meant to be a low-maintenance and rust-resistant EDC knife, the sub-3-inch blade is running on phosphor bronze washers, so you don't have to fear the dreaded pocket lint and dander or dust getting in there. The actuation is reliable enough. I mean, it opens up reliably and does so with some grace and some smoothness, but like the jimping I mentioned earlier, the inside of the 420 stoned out Spidey hole has not been knocked down at all. it's as sharp and unfriendly to the fingers as the jimping is, and I found it collects quite a lot of flesh and fingernail residue after only a few flips, and on a coated blade, that nastiness really stands out. And for some reason, they've only scalloped one side of the scales. Only the show side has that little area to, guide your thumb through the actuation process. So in the right hand, as in like your hand on your right, it's a pain to spidey flick, but a breeze with the thumb. And in the left hand, you can spidey flick it all day with no issues, but the thumb flick is a pain in the ass to pull off reliably. Now, I'm not sure if this has been addressed in the newer iterations of the Chase, but it has been an annoyance for me on this early version. But an annoyance that I've gotten used to and adjusted for. And pushing the razor blade studded liner lock aside, that little blade needs just a touch of coaxing on the close. So not a fidgeting dream to handle and play with, but reliable to say the least. So, where does that lead me with this beautiful little knife? Well, as I said before, I picked mine up secondhand for about 80 bucks, and I'm okay with that price point for the looks alone. At retail, all of the currently available plain colored variants will run you about $110, but you're getting the massively improved blade steel options. And as many gripes as I have with this older model, I can honestly see myself being okay with that new retail price as well, especially if they have adjusted the violent jimping and added a scalloped area on both sides to help with the action. Yeah, for sure. Honestly, yeah, if they fix those two things, 100%, $110 is well worth it. My only problem would be, I would want these scales with 20CV or LC200N, and I've not been able to find that variant anywhere in my searches, and I'm afraid it doesn't exist. So if you're in it for the looks, see if you can pick one of these up for 80 bucks or less. But if you're fine with pink or orange scales, grab one of the newer models with the modern super steels. And if you happen to have a newer model, please let me know in the comments if they fixed those issues I've talked about since 2018. I'm honestly kind of dying to know. So, until next time, thank you for watching. Bye-bye now.